הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה כולו מצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה כולו מצה.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שער ירקות, שער ירקות. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה מרור, מרור. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה מרור, מרור.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות איננו מתפילים אפילו פעם אחת, אפילו פעם אחת. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה שתי פעמים, הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה שתי פעמים.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים בין יושבים ובין מסובין, בין יושבים ובין מסובין. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה כולנו מסובין. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה כולנו מסובין.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה כולו מצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה כולו מצה.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שער ירקות, שער ירקות. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה מרור, מרור. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה
השתנה הלילה הזה
Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to Trole Chaim with your host, Rabbi Anibal, preparing for Passover, getting ready for Pesach. So welcome everyone. Welcome Andrea, you were here nice and early. Donna, welcome. And Priscilla is here too. Welcome to the class. Let's see who else shows up today. And I guess nobody wants to assume, nobody wants to actually start thinking about Passover, I guess. Just because it's tough. It's tough to get ready. If you want to have a little bit of a traditional Pesach, it's hard work. If you're like me, you will already be on your way of cleaning up the house and making arrangements and plans and stuff like that. So yeah, lots of fun around my house. Cleaning, getting products for Pesach. And I already went a couple of times to the supermarket. Hello, Karen Farkas. Welcome to the class. I already went a couple of times to the supermarket to get stuff. My wife also went a couple of times because, you know, then you always realize that you missed something. You have to go back, hoping that nobody will buy it before you go back to the supermarket. I don't know if you ever happened that to you. Andrea, you're cleaning today. So much fun. Come on. Are you sarcastic or is for real that you have fun doing the cleaning? I have no fun doing it. And I have a crew that we hired this year to help me write a few days before Pesach, the last touches to have a really, really professional cleaning in the house. Yeah. You see, I changed my background today in honor to Pesach and the intro song as well. David Grossman, hello. 26 degrees Celsius in Dallas, Texas. And you are telling me that because I am in Winnipeg? Good for you, David. Good for you. It's cold here. It's not super cold anymore. What is it? Minus what today? -9. Wind chill -15. Still cold. I thought it was a little higher, to be honest. I just came back and I thought it was a little higher. Hello, Brenda Grossman. You are in, what is that? Bucerius? Is that a place? Karen Farkas, you said, I keep losing you. Is it a problem with the connection? Oh boy, sorry about that. I don't know why. I'm doing exactly the same thing that I do all the time. And so I don't know why there is a problem. So maybe we should start with the class. Oh, in Mexico. Brenda Grossman is in Mexico. The Grossmans, actually, I guess. They're in Mexico. Very nice. Very nice for you. Okay, so let's begin with the class. Pesach. We have to start preparing ourselves for Pesach. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to go to the here we are. Randy Lodinger, welcome, shalom. Okay, Pesach. Let's start with the basics. Okay, let's start with the basics. When is Pesach? Well, it's celebrated exactly in the middle of the month. Which is an interesting detail. Interesting detail because the middle of the night, thinking in the ancient times, is when you have more chances to have lots of light, especially in the spring. Because in the Middle East, spring, summers never rains, or almost never. All the rains fall in the fall and winter, right? So can you imagine back in the day celebrating Pesach, you have the daylight and then you have the full moon to celebrate Passover. Probably it gave them a chance to celebrate a little longer into the night. They didn't have electric lights or things, so Something to consider when you read things about the ancient days. Okay, 15th of Nisan. By the way, back in the day, Pesach was celebrated in the evening. Okay, when it becomes the 15th of Nisan, in the evening, what is the Seder right now? And it used to be the offering of the Paschal lamb, and they used to eat it together in a family gathering. That is what we call the Seder in this way. But we don't have the Paschal lamb anymore. There is no temple. There are no sacrifices. So, in theory, we don't celebrate Chag HaPesach anymore. I don't know if you realize that. If you open the prayer book, the Siddur doesn't mention Chag HaPesach. Aha! The Siddur mentions Chag HaMatzot. Hazeh Zman Cheruteinu. So the Siddur mentions two names for Pesach. None of them is Pesach. One is Chag HaMatzot, Festival of the Matzahs, and Zman Cheruteinu, time of our freedom. No mention to Pesach. Why? Because there is no Pesach anymore. Okay? It's a symbolic remembrance of the Paschal lamb. But the festival is the festival of the Matzah, Chag HaMatzot. Okay? Just remember that. I wrote an article about that in the Sherry Sedek Shofar magazine. It's going to be online very soon. So pay attention to that, and you can read all the details on what we actually celebrate in a couple of weeks. Okay, so but what we call Pesach is celebrated on the 15th of Nisan. This year is in the evening of Wednesday, the 5th of April, 2023. Okay, Wednesday, April 5th at night is the first Seder. So, if you're in Israel, only one Seder. If you're outside Israel, you have two Seders. So you have the first Seder on the 5th, second Seder on the 6th. Okay? I hope you are celebrating both Sedarim. I'm going to talk more about what we do here in Winnipeg a little bit later on the class, so you will have an idea of how you can celebrate Pesach with us, with Sherry Zedek this year. Okay. Let's go to the Torah now, and let's read specifically, where is this deal of having the Pesach celebration, where it's coming from? It's coming from the Torah. It's coming from the book of Exodus, chapter 12. I'm going to read verses 1 to 14, okay? So, let's read together. Adonai spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, and he said, "You are to begin your calendar this month. It will be the first month of the year for you." Interesting. By the way, for your records, for all of you who like trivia information, this is the first mitzvah, the first commandment given to the entire nation of Israel. And we sometimes have the impression that the first commandment was given on Sinai, when God reveals the Torah to the people of Israel, right? That was the revelation. Wrong. The first commandment was given when they were still in Egypt. And there were a couple of things that God communicated to the Jewish people. Number one, to create a calendar. That was the very first mitzvah. Create a calendar. Be responsible with your time. You are free. You won't have anybody to tell you what to do. So you have to be responsible with your time from now on. Okay? So God says to them, the month of Nisan, which is the month of Nisan, is going to be the first month of the biblical calendar. Okay? Good. That's number one. And then, after that, after you know how to calculate time, speak to the assembly of Israel and say, on the 10th day of the month, each man is to take a lamb for his family, one per household, except that if the household is too small for a whole lamb, then he and his next door neighbor should share one, dividing it in proportion to the number of people eating it. Okay, so you understand this. Get a lamb for you and your family, but if one lamb is too much for you, you have to invite people over. That's why we have the tradition to invite people to the Seder. If you ever wonder where it's coming from, it's coming from here. Okay. Your animal must be without defect, a male in its first year, and you may choose it from either the sheep or the goats. That clear? Okay. So this thing, we don't do it anymore. It was a mitzvah commanded to the Jewish people, but we don't do it anymore because it was slaughtered at their houses back then. But once the tabernacle was built, almost immediately after they left Egypt, they were not allowed to sacrifice outside the tabernacle anymore. So it was the tabernacle in the desert, eventually became the temple. Once the temple was destroyed, this lamb used to celebrate Passover was discontinued. We don't do it anymore. In fact, there is a tradition, at least for Ashkenazi Jews, that we don't even eat lamb the night of the Seder. Sephardics, they do. They do. They just don't prepare it the way, they just don't roast it the way it will be. They don't barbecue, let's put it that way, because that will be too close of what the Jews used to do with the temple. So Sephardic, they have the tradition to have lamb, but in different recipes, not the traditional way eaten when the temple existed. Just have that in mind. Now, let's continue. You are to keep it until keep the lamb alive. Keep it alive until the 14th day of the month of Nisan, and then the entire assembly of the community of Israel will slaughter it at dusk. They are to take some of the blood and smear it on the two sides and top of the door frame at the entrance of the house in which they eat it. Remember this? They have to paint the door frames with the blood of the Paschal lamb. We don't do it either anymore. That night, they are to eat the meat of the lamb roasted in the fire. They are to eat it with matzah and maror, bitter herbs. You see, we don't have the lamb anymore, but we still have the matzah and the maror in the Seder. We try to keep whatever we can, okay? Don't eat it raw or boiled, but roasted in the fire with its head, the lower parts of its legs, and its inner organs. But again, this is only if you're in temple times. Right now, we don't do it. Let nothing of it remain till morning. So basically, eat it all. Eat it all. And if you cannot eat it all for any reason, any of it does remain, burn it up completely. So you cannot have any leftovers. Here is how you are to eat this lamb. Okay? With your belt fastened, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you are to eat it hurriedly. It is Adonai's Pesach. So again, if you want to know what Pesach is that lamb. The lamb is called Pesach. So when you say Chag Pesach, the festival of Pesach, what you are saying is this is the festival of slaughtering and eating the lamb, which we don't do it anymore. That's why the Siddur, the prayer book, does not mention Chag HaPesach anymore, because we don't really celebrate that. Okay? So, and you have to eat it, with your belt fastened, your shoes on your feet, your stuff in your hand, because you don't know when you're going to get the command to leave Egypt. Okay? You have to be ready, even when you are eating the lamb. For that night, said God, I will pass through the land of Egypt and kill all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. That is the 10th plague, both men and animals, and I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt. I am Adonai. Okay? The blood of the lamb will serve you as a sign marking the houses where you are. When I see the blood, listen to this, I will pass over you. When I strike the land of Egypt, the death blow will not strike you. This will be a day for you to remember and celebrate as a festival to Adonai from generation to generation. You are to celebrate it by perpetual regulation. In other words, it says, yes, you have to eat it this way in Egypt, but the festival itself is going to stay with you forever. Okay? So even in these days when we don't have a temple, because the Torah said that it is from generation to generation, a perpetual regulation, we have to figure out how to still do it. And that's why we have a kind of Pesach celebration, but it's not even close for what it was back in the day. Okay? So again, when you say that you're celebrating Passover, in English, Passover, you're talking about the angel of death passing over the houses of the Israelites during the 10th plague. But when you say it in Hebrew, Chag Pesach, what you are saying is you're talking about the lamb that it was sacrificed the last night of the Israelites in Egypt. Is that clear? I want to know if you're following along. Okay, this is very clear to understand what we are celebrating. Okay, good. Remember, you have the chat. So I always like to see your comments. Now, let's talk a little bit about now the festival that we do observe, which is Chag Matzot, the festival of the matzahs. We read in Exodus also that it says matzah. Okay, thank you, Donna. Thank you for your comment. Okay, good. Matzah is to be eaten throughout the 7 days. Okay, 7 days. This is a different holidays that overlaps with Chag Pesach. Neither chametz nor leavening agents are to be seen with you throughout your territory. So what happened is now Pesach is over. Pesach was the first night. It's done. Even if you're in temple times, you eat the Paschal lamb. Chag Pesach, the festival of Pesach, is over. Okay. Now the next day you start a new festival that is the Chag Matzot, where all you have to do is to celebrate Chag Matzot. What is said here? It's basically neither chametz nor leavening agents are to be seen with you throughout your territories. So Karen, you say, which one are we celebrating, Passover or Pesach? Well, technically, the night of the Seder, you are celebrating Chag HaPesach, but without the Pesach, without the lamb. But we call it Passover in English. The Torah or rabbinic sources, they never call it Passover. They never call it. There is no name in Hebrew to talk about the 10th plague, the angel of death. Every time in Hebrew that we talk about Pesach, we talk about the lamb. Okay, not about the angel of death passing over. But it's okay. It's both. Both are none at the same time. The name of the holidays, either it's Passover or Pesach, is symbolic in these days. Okay? The most important one, but we never use it, is Chag Matzot, Festival of the Matzah, or Zman Cheruteinu, the time of our freedom. Okay? Because it also commemorates the Exodus from Egypt. Those are other names that we have. I'm going to talk in a minute about all the names for Passover. Okay? So, we see here, we have in Exodus, one is neither chametz nor chametz. You know what is chametz, right? Everything that contains leavening agents. It's not just bread. It's anything with grains that could ferment is chametz. So you have to be very careful. It says it's a commandment. It's a mitzvah. It's from the Torah. It's not even rabbinical. It's not something that the rabbi thought about. It's written in the Torah. Neither chametz nor leavening agents are to be seen with you throughout your territory. So, and even though that it says matzah is to be eaten throughout the 7 days, the rabbis understand that it's not that you're obligated to eat matzah. Basically, the obligation of that week is not to eat or to have chametz. If you don't want to eat matzah, you don't have to, except for the Seder. For the Seder, yes, because the Parsha specifically said that you have to eat the matzah and maror in the Seder. But after the Seder, you don't have to eat matzah. You are not allowed to eat chametz. Okay? So you have to eat fruits or meat or vegetables. But you're not allowed to eat chametz. Okay? But it's important. Some people say that, Rabbi, I don't know what to do. Eating matzah for 7 days. My stomach, my poor stomach. You don't have to eat matzah for the 7 days. Just don't eat chametz. Okay? And the other verse that we have here now is Exodus 12:19. During those 7 days, no leaven is to be found in your houses. Okay? Whoever eats food with chametz in it, it is to be cut off from the community of Israel. So this is a serious offense according to the Torah. It doesn't matter whether he is a foreigner or a citizen of the land. So back in temple times, back in biblical times, I would say, nobody in the land of Israel was allowed to eat anything containing chametz. It was like a national thing. Okay? And the Pesach celebration and the Festival of Matzah celebration was a national law for everybody. Okay? Now, let's talk briefly about the different names that we use for Pesach, and that's what I mentioned before, that this could be confusing, but because each one of the names that I want to present to you are talking about different aspects of the festival, but in this day and age, they are all synonyms. Okay? You can use any of these names to refer to the festival that we are about to observe. Okay. Number 1, Chag Pesach. Okay? Feast of the Paschal Lamb. It refers to the lamb or goat, which was designated as the Passover sacrifice, Korban Pesach. Now, as I mentioned, that's why we use it in English. It also means he passed over, in reference to God passing over the houses of the Hebrews during the final of the 10 plagues of Egypt. Okay? So basically, are both correct. Chag Pesach or Passover. We all know what we are talking about. Second, Chag Matzot, Feast of the Unleavened Bread, because our people left Egypt with such haste that there was no time to allow baked bread to rise. So we don't eat chametz, and if you want to eat something resembling bread, you have to eat matzah for a week. And this is very interesting, because on Pesach, we eat matzah. Okay, we are not allowed to eat bread. The next festival, 50 days after Pesach, is Shavuot. And in Shavuot is all the opposite. In Shavuot, in temple times, you have to eat bread. There was an offering of bread. There is a contrast there. Maybe we are going to study that whenever we're going to study about Shavuot in Torah L'chaim. Okay, so be patient for that. Not on this class. Next, Zman Cheruteinu, the time of our freedom. This implies not only past freedom but current freedom as well. Passover demands from us that we appreciate our freedom. Okay. Next, Chag HaAviv, the spring festival, because they left Egypt during the spring season. Now, in modern Hebrew, Aviv is the springtime. Okay, so that's what we celebrate. Now, let's talk about how we fulfill the mitzvah of not having chametz during Chag HaMatzot. Okay, and this is very important, and it takes from, if you want to observe the Chag HaMatzot properly, you have to start making a few decisions today. And I'm going to explain that, because you need to fulfill at least 3 steps to be sure that you're observing Chag HaMatzot properly. The 3 steps are, okay, Bitul Chametz, nullification of ownership of Chametz. Number 2, Mehidat Chametz, the sale of the Chametz. And number 3, Bedikat Chametz, searching and destroying by fire of the chametz. Okay? And I'm going to explain all this. I'm going to explain all these 3 steps and how we do it. I'm going to start with Mehidat Chametz, okay? The sale of the chametz, because it's the one we do first. Now, Mehidat Chametz is usually performed first. Listen to this. A Jew, but this is only for Jewish people, okay? Because I know many non-Jewish people that they observe Passover in the sense that they eat matzah or they have some kind of seder, and which is fine. Everybody can do that, but only Jews have the obligation to get rid of the chametz during the week. Okay, it doesn't mean that non-Jewish people cannot do it, but they have no obligation to do it. For Jews, there is an obligation that is biblical, that we have to get rid of all the chametz for the week of Chag HaMatzot. So, a Jew who had his own chametz in his possession on Pesach or Chag HaMatzot, but again, remember, Pesach, Chag HaMatzot, from now on, synonyms, transgresses each and every moment of Pesach on the prohibition of, he shall not be seen and he shall not be found. The Torah, that's the way the Torah talks about chametz. Chametz shall not be seen in your property and shall not be found in your property. Okay? So you have to be sure that you can fulfill with that. And it is prohibited to benefit from such chametz forever. So this is what happened. If you don't get rid of your chametz, even if you don't eat it during Pesach, and say, okay, I don't get rid of the chametz, but I have it there, I just won't eat it. The problem is that chametz cannot be consumed after Pesach if you didn't get rid of it. Okay? Forever. That chametz becomes forbidden, or in other words, non-kosher, forever. Which is a problem. I will tell you an example. I think I mentioned it before. One of the things that is absolute chametz is whiskey or beer. Both are chametz. You cannot drink whiskey, you cannot drink beer during Pesach. So there are some breweries and distilleries that they are owned by Jews. So if they don't sell their chametz for Pesach, because there are procedures for breweries and distilleries to do it, but if they don't, then their batches, their drinks are not kosher all year round, because you never know if they are coming from the chametz that was not sold during Pesach. So I know for a fact that it used to be a problem with, for example, rye distilleries in Canada. They used to be owned by Jews, and rabbis complained that Jews should not drink it because the owners never sold the chametz. Okay? This day and age is more difficult because, or is easier for us, because ownership is usually shared. So it's not a problem anymore. But if it's a 100% Jewish owned, it's a problem. Okay? Just an example on how this rule of the chametz forbidden forever could affect us. Okay? Now, if the owner is not Jewish, it's not a problem. They don't have to get rid of the chametz because this mitzvah is not for them. Okay, therefore, one who owns large amounts of chametz that he is unable to destroy, eat, give away, right, must sell it to a non-Jew before Pesach. Why non-Jew? To a non-Jew. There. This chametz may be eaten by a Jew after Pesach. Understand that? Good. After Pesach, the Jew should request from the non-Jew that he should sell him back the chametz for such and such an amount of money. And this is the way it's done in these days. Now, it's not done individually. What you should do is to fill up a form. I'm going to talk about that later in the class. Fill up a form that you are going to give me a power of attorney. So basically, you are selling the chametz to me. You give it to me, and I will sell it on your behalf. Okay, the chametz. Now, so we are going to talk about the specifics of how you do that later on. Now, the other step. Next step is the searching of the chametz. This is done preferably beginning with dusk on the evening of the 14th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, which is the evening before the first Seder. Okay? So if the first Seder is on the 5th, you're doing this on the 4th at night. 4th of April at night. Now, those years in which the first Seder falls on a Saturday night, the Bedika, the searching, must be conducted Thursday night. It means 2 days before. You don't do it on Shabbat because you need a candle and things, so you have to do it one night in advance. So, how you do it? One should make the search by candlelight or a flashlight and search his home for every piece of chametz he can find. Okay? Before you begin the search, please recite the following blessing. Blessed are you, God, our Lord, King of the universe, who sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us concerning the destruction of chametz. So in other words, you are saying out loud that it's not just, you're not just cleaning your house. You are searching the chametz for the purpose of destroying it. Okay? Upon completion of the search, the next step is the bitul, nullification of ownership. There is a formula called kol hamira, which is recited at that time when you nullified the ownership of chametz. And you say, all chametz or leavening which is in my possession, which I have not seen, or I have not removed, or whose existence I didn't know about, I'm making it null and void, hefker in Hebrew, as the dust of the earth. Okay, you have to say it out loud. Where do you have that? It's usually all in the Haggadah. If you get our Haggadah, the Shaarei Tzedek Haggadah is all there at the beginning. So you can download it for free. It's not there yet. It's not there yet, this year Haggadah. It's going to be in their website very soon. And you have all the blessings and everything you need to prepare for the search printed there for your convenience. Now, the last step is the burning of the chametz. It's still connected to the nullification, right? But it's done the next morning. The following morning, the chametz found the previous night, plus the leftovers from the breakfast, must be burned. So that morning, your house is going to be ready for Passover, but you have to leave a corner in your kitchen where you're going to eat breakfast, maybe on top of a like plastic bag or something, so you won't make the rest of your kitchen chametz. And so then you take whatever you found last night plus the leftovers of the breakfast and you burn it. You burn it. The nullification is again pronounced, but now you add the words, all my chametz that I do know about, okay? Following or don't know about. You add it to the previous formula. But don't worry, it's all in the Haggadah. Any questions? Any questions? And I know some synagogues that they actually have like a bonfire where people will bring their chametz to burn it there to make it a little bit safer. I've seen that. We don't do it at Shaarei Tzedek because not many people do it. But if you're in a city, that you can find out if there is any synagogue doing that, and then you can take all your chametz there. No, you don't throw it away. Usually it's by burning. Yeah, you have to burn it. Now, how do you kosher your house? Have you ever wondered that? I don't know how much you do. Anybody of you, if you want to share in the chat how you kosher your house. I'm very curious of what steps you take. But if the traditional step to kosher the house, right, other than cleaning, is basically doing certain things in the kitchen. Okay? The kitchen is the most difficult part to kosher for Passover. This is what you do. This is what you do. Koshering in the kitchen. And there are 4 different methods of koshering a kitchen and kitchen utensils for Pesach. And they are, number 1, Hagalah. Hagalah. Total immersion in boiling water. Okay? Number 2, Libun. Again, Libun. Purification but flame, using a blowtorch until the surface is heated to a glow. Same effect is achieved by leaving the stove top on maximum heat for 5 minutes and or running the self-cleaning cycle of the oven. Okay? Is that clear? Because I know that there are certain like industrial kitchens that you have to take all the how you call it? It's like a grid, right? That they are on top of the flame. Take it out. You have to blowtorch it. You can't just turn on the flame because it won't make it. It won't make it glow. So you have to glow. But if you have, for example, ceramic or electric kitchens, what you have to do is to turn it on, and that will go red to a glow. So you leave it for 5 minutes, and it's kosher. And then if you run the self-cleaning cycle in the oven, okay, after that, boom, it's kosher. One of the things that sometimes you may have to use the blowtorch is for the, again, the trays in the oven. You have to remove it and do it separately, okay? And if that's too complicated, at least give it a good, because sometimes, at least my kitchen, for example, my oven, if you leave it inside, the self-cleaning cycle won't work. So I have to wash it and clean it separately. Okay, next method, irui. Irui, pouring boiling water over the surfaces using an already kosher lepesach pot, right? And the last one, milui veirui, soaking in cold water. So when do you use each method? Well, the general principle of which method to choose is known as Kevolo kach polto. As it absorbs, so it sheds. So for example, a pot should be immersed in boiling water because that's what you put. You put liquids inside. And the chametz is absorbed to the pot through the liquids that have chametz during the year. So if you want to kosher it, you have to immerse it in boiling water. While, for example, an over rock should be kosher by fire. So you understand? The irui, for example, pouring boiling water, you're going to use it for your sinks. You just, first you wash it with, you scrub it, you wash it with detergent, but then you have to pour boiling water on top to finish the koshering process. Now, the last one, milui veirui, I haven't seen anybody doing that, soaking in cold water, because that's something that you will use, for example, for containers that you put cold food on it, like a Tupperware sort of thing. But those things usually in these days are plastic, and the plastic cannot be koshered. Okay, and most of the glass containers, they absorb chametz and they cannot be koshered. And then even if you do it, it has to be done in a process of 48 hours, replacing the water. It's too complex. Nobody does it anymore. There are certain things that there is some controversies if they can be kosher or not, like a dishwasher. And you could run the sanitized cycle of the dishwasher, but you will have to replace the trays, which could be very complicated. You could get a second set of trays for Passover. That's what I have, but it's expensive to do that. Now, like in Shaare Zedek, for example, the dishwasher is industrial, so the trays are removable and they are plastic and very cheap to replace one with another, because you can load all these trays in advance and you just put it in the dishwasher, close it and run it. But most people don't have that at home. So, and the other thing is the microwave oven. I was told, you can't really clean it, but in these days you can actually buy for very little a second. That's what I have. I have a second microwave oven just for Passover. Okay, I got it in a sale on Walmart a few years ago. That's what we use. Way better than start going crazy trying to clean it. And then basically you say, well, what do you do with your regular microwave oven? Well, it gets sold with all your chametz. You don't have to remove it. It can stay there, but it gets sold with all your chametz. And then you get it back at the end of Pesach. So that's the solution. Okay? The other thing that you should know about Passover is that we use an Haggadah for the Seder, right? And why do we use the Haggadah? Because there is a mitzvah coming from Exodus 13:8 that it says, Vehigadeta levincha. Okay? And you are to tell to your son. So in other words, there is a mitzvah to tell our children the story of the Exodus. And the word used in the Torah to say that we have to tell them is vehigadeta. Higadeta, Haggadah, same root. So the word Haggadah comes from the words vehigadeta, which is the mitzvah to teach our children about Pesach. Now the interesting thing is, I don't know if you're like you, I always, every year, go around and try to see if there is any version of the Haggadah. And every year, there are new versions of the Haggadah. You would say, okay, come on, how many Haggadot can you create? I've seen the Harry Potter Haggadah, so many crazy things. How many can you get? Well, as many as you want, because the guidelines of how to create an Haggadah are very basic. So there is a lot of room to be creative at the time of adding or editing content to the Haggadah. Okay? And I'm going to show you, for example, from the Mishnah, the basic guideline that we have on how to create the Haggadah, and you will understand, hopefully, why we have so much room, so much wiggle room to create our own Haggadah like the way we do it at the Shaarei Zedek. The Mishnah says, they pour the second cup for the Seder leader. Okay? So basically the Mishnah will talk about the 4 cups. Okay? We have 4 cups. Fine. That is all Haggadahs, new and old. They all agree 4 cups. They pour the second cup of the Seder leader, and the child then questions his father. If the child is not knowledgeable, then his father teaches him. Okay? Why is this night different from all other nights? So then the Mishnah said you need to have the 4 questions. Ma nishtana halayla ze. Right? 4 questions. Interestingly enough, look at question number 3. On all other nights, we eat meat that is roasted, stewed, or cooked. But on this night, we only eat roasted. That question is not in the current Haggadot anymore. It was removed because we don't have the lamb anymore. You can tell this is the Mishnah. It was written during the times of the Second Temple. So we don't have that anymore. It was replaced by the question that said on all other nights we eat either seated or reclined. And on this night only reclined. That was the one that replaced the outdated question number 3. Okay? So this is one of the things that we do. And then the other guideline that we have is that what the rabbis say. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go back here. And it says, the father must instruct his son, but in this day we say the children, according to the children's intelligence. They should begin with shame and conclude with praise. In other words, we have that paragraph during the Haggadah that is talking about the 4 children, right? It's inspired of this Mishnah. And then it says, you begin with shame, conclude with praise. That's why we start talking about that we were slaves and how bad it was. And then at the end of the Seder, we have the Hallel, the verses of praise. So basic guidelines. And then the Haggadot during time, they were built upon these principles. And the other thing, and that's why we keep having new version of the Haggadah, is because this are teaching by Rashi, Rashbam, Rambam, many rabbis agreed on this point, that it says we don't force a child to ask questions. We want the child to ask, but we don't force them. We don't force them. We instead we perform acts that pique the child's curiosity. We may change the regular order of the meal, or hand out candies, or use other creative methods in the hope the child will ask about their meaning and be prepared mentally and emotionally to hear the story of the Exodus. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? By the way, next week we are going to study about things from the Haggadah, more specifically. I think I would like to call it Navigating the Haggadah. Mostly, we are going to explore some of the tunes of the Haggadah. Hopefully, that way we can prepare for Pesach. Okay? And by the way, talking about preparing for Pesach, I mentioned you have to sell your chametz. And I want to explain here. This is what you have to do. If you want to sell your chametz with us, even if you are not in Winnipeg, doesn't matter. You can go online to nzwinnipeg.ca/chametz and fill up the form there. You will see in the bottom that it says that is if you want to add a donation with the form, and I explain why we ask for the donation for this, and it's because at the end of I'm doing all this selling of the chametz with an evangelical minister from an organization called Bridges for Peace, which are evangelicals that they support Israel, and they're very good friend of the Jewish community here in Israel and internationally. Okay, so he buys all my chametz and your chametz, and he gives me $40 as a deposit, and then we agree that after Pesach we are going to calculate how much is all the chametz that he is going to buy, and then he's going to give me the rest of the money. If when we get together at the end of the Pesach, he doesn't want to buy it, right? I have the choice to rebuy everything, which is basically usually the way it goes. I'm going to explain more of this when I'm going to do it live. Okay, the selling of the chametz, so you can all attend. It's going to be April 5th around 9:15. You can come in person to Temple Shalom or online to witness how I'm selling the chametz. But then at the end I have to buy it. So we get all the donations from people who sell the chametz through me, and then with that money I go to the reverend and I said I want to buy back all the chametz from the community. Here, this is the payment for you. It's very interesting. Don't miss that one, okay? But for now, you can go here, nzwinnipeg.ca/chametz, and you have all the instructions and all the explanations there, okay? Next, the other thing that you may want to consider before Pesach is this class with Dr. Rina. It's very interesting, and it's Hebrew reading for the Haggadah. This is for people who has a very basic, very, very, very basic knowledge of Hebrew, but they will still like to read the Haggadah from the Hebrew. I know our Haggadah has English and phonetics, but if you want to try this year to read it in Hebrew, you may want to consider this class with Dr. Rina. It's on Zoom, okay? It's on Zoom, and you have to register by March 27th. You still have time. You still have time to think about it, okay? nzwinnipeg.ca/Hebrew. Very interesting class. Very interesting class. Now, the other thing is about the Sedarim. For the first Seder, because remember, we don't have a building, the Shari Zedek. You know, our congregation, you know, if you're a regular, you know, we don't have a building. For 2 years, we are redoing the interiors of the synagogue, so we are roaming to different places. So the first Seder is going to be online again. Look at that. That's me, my wife, and my son. So we are going to do it for the second time. We did it last year, and it's coming back. It's coming back. It's called the Pajama First Seder. And it's going to be on Wednesday, April 5th at 6:15 p.m. Central Time. Okay? But this is the thing. If you're in Winnipeg and you want us to lead your Seder, because basically that's what it is, you can pick up for free a printed Haggadah, or you tell us how many you need. You can pick them up from Temple Shalom. The same Haggadah that we are going to use in my house. So we can do it together. It's an amazing thing. Okay? We are very blessed that our friends from Vikar Nissan here. They are sponsoring, they are paying to print all this free Haggadot for people of the community who would like to have the Sharet Tzedek Haggadah. So you can, of course, download it online and print your own, but if you're in Winnipeg, we can do that for you. And we always approach them. It's funny to me because Pesach is on Nissan, right? And I said, hey, dude, I know the owner. And I said, this is the month of Nissan. Why don't you sponsor it? Okay, so I said, yeah, talk to my marketing people. And we made it happen. Very funny. Okay, second Seder is going to be a community Seder that is not going to be streamed because it's not run by Sharet Tzedek. We are basically joining the Federation Seder here in Winnipeg, and I think it's sold out by now, but you can find out online if you still can do it. So sorry to say that the second Seder is not going to be streamed from us. Yeah, Vicar in Winnipeg. Yes, Karen. Do you know the Vicar family? They have different auto dealerships here. Okay, but the first Seder, you can do it with us, with my family. Now, the other thing you can do here in Winnipeg is, if you're in Winnipeg, you can order food from us. You have lots of things. Great things. You know, turkey, brisket, meatballs, asparagus, gefilte fish, chocolate decadent torte. That is amazing. It's amazing. It's flourless. Absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, so if you want to put the Pesach catering order with us, just remember, you have to do it by March 29th at 1 p.m. That's deadline. We cannot take any orders after that, so I leave it there in case you were considering of doing it with us. And the last thing that I want to tell you, and this is very important, is at the end of Pesach, also in person only, we are finally going to do Mimuna, which is a Moroccan celebration. Okay? A Moroccan celebration to celebrate the end of Pesach. And usually the tradition is to eat lots of things with chametz. It's like lots of chametz celebration. It has the origins in Morocco, and with music and thing. It's going to be amazing. Thursday, April 13th at 10 p.m. It has to be late because it's after different rabbis. You know, we have to repurchase the chametz first, and then we can do it. We can start heating it and serving it. The end of Pesach is around 10 p.m. So Mimuna will be at 10 p.m. at the Asper Jewish Community Campus. And you have to register by March 30th. And it's $15 per person. And if you want to join us, it's at winnipeg.ca/Mimuna. I was told that the accent is on the last A. Mimuna. That's how you call it. So lots of options for all of you to celebrate together Pesach. So I hope to see you in all of them or some of them. And I hope you're gonna witness the selling of the chametz, so you're gonna learn how it's done. Or if you can do it and make it in person, even better. So we'll have witnesses in person to the transaction. And there's always new opportunities to connect, to learn, and to celebrate together at the Sharet Tzedek. But for now, please remember, this class is going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central. Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, share it with a friend, and please stay safe. And hope to see you soon. Remember, next week, we continue studying about Pesach and more specific stuff about the Haggadah. Karen Farkas says, I know David and Heather in Edmonton. I don't think I know them. But it's, there are lots of people, lots of vicars. I think they all came from Saskatchewan, actually. That's where they originated. The vicar from Saskatchewan, and then they went different places in Canada. Okay, have a wonderful day, everyone. See you soon. Bye.